Hello, and a very warm welcome. Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever stood up from your favorite armchair, maybe a little too quickly, and suddenly the whole room seemed to tilt for a second? Or perhaps you've been in the middle of telling a story to a friend, and the perfect word, a simple word you've used 1,000 times before, just vanishes? For so many of us, the immediate, almost automatic reaction is to chuckle and say, "Oh, just another senior moment." We might brush it off, perhaps feel a small, private flicker of frustration or even embarrassment, but then we carry on with our day. But what if I were to tell you that these moments, these seemingly small, harmless glitches in our daily programming, are not just random quirks of getting older? What if they are something far more significant? What if they are quiet, urgent whispers from the very control center of your being, your brain? The difficult truth is, our culture has taught us to dismiss these signals. We bundle them up under the vague label of aging, and in doing so, we might be unintentionally ignoring the earliest warnings that our brain is struggling, that it's not getting the constant, rich supply of oxygen and nutrients it desperately needs to thrive. This isn't just about memory lapses. This is about a deep, often unspoken fear. The fear of losing our sharpness, of our world shrinking, of one day becoming a burden on the very people we love most. That fear is real, and it's valid. But here is the empowering truth that we are going to uncover together today. You can learn to speak your brain's language. You can become the lead detective in the most important investigation of your life, the one for your own health. In this video, we are going to pull back the curtain. I will guide you, step by step, through 8 silent signs that your brain may not be getting enough blood flow. These aren't the dramatic, headline-grabbing symptoms of a major stroke that everyone talks about. These are the subtle precursors, the early warnings that, once you learn to recognize them, can empower you to take meaningful action, protect your independence, and safeguard the future of your incredible mind. Now, I know that what we just talked about might feel a little heavy, maybe even a bit daunting. And I want to acknowledge that. My purpose here is never to cause alarm. It's the exact opposite. It's to replace that vague, unsettling feeling of the unknown with the power of clear, actionable knowledge. And that knowledge is always more powerful when we share it. So before we dive into the very first silent sign, I want to formally invite you to become a part of our community. When you take a moment to subscribe to this channel, you're not just getting videos. You're joining a growing circle of individuals dedicated to navigating these years with vitality, wisdom, and support for one another. And to ensure this conversation is truly serving you, please take a moment right now to go down to the comments and share one thing. What is your number one concern when it comes to your brain health as you age? Your honesty helps guide our future topics and builds a community where we can all learn from each other. Thank you. Now, let's begin. Let's turn on our health detective spotlight and investigate the very first, and perhaps most commonly misunderstood, clue your body might be sending you. Alright, let's turn our attention to that first clue. It's one so many of us experience that we've almost normalized it, and that is, a sudden wave of dizziness, lightheadedness, or a brief loss of balance, especially when you stand up. Think of that moment. You've been reading a book, or perhaps enjoying a cup of tea in your favorite chair. You decide to get up to go to the kitchen, and as you rise, the room suddenly feels like it's on a gentle but disorienting carousel. Your vision might go a bit gray or blurry for a few seconds. You instinctively reach out for the back of the chair or a nearby wall to steady yourself. Then, just as quickly as it came, it passes. The world settles back into focus, and you think to yourself, "Whoa, got up a bit too fast there." Here is what is actually happening in your body during those few seconds, and why it's so important to pay attention. This phenomenon is often called orthostatic hypotension. It's a fancy term, but the concept is quite simple. Imagine your circulatory system is like the plumbing in a house. When you're sitting or lying down, the pipes are mostly level, and it doesn't take much pressure for your heart, the pump, to send blood to every room, including the most important room of all, your brain. But when you stand up, you suddenly introduce gravity into the equation. Your heart now has to work much harder and faster to pump that blood uphill to your brain against the downward pull. A healthy, flexible vascular system responds instantly. Your blood vessels slightly constrict, your blood pressure adjusts in a fraction of a second, and the flow to your brain remains steady. However, as we age, our arteries can become stiffer and less responsive, a condition known as arteriosclerosis. If they can't adjust quickly enough, there's a momentary drop in blood pressure. For just 2, 3, or maybe 5 seconds, your brain is getting less blood, and therefore less oxygen, than it needs. That lightheaded, woozy feeling? That's your brain sending out a little SOS. It's an alarm bell telling you, hey, I'm not getting enough fuel up here. Now, the reason this is so critical is that while a single episode might seem harmless, a pattern of these events can be a powerful indicator of a wider, systemic issue with your circulation. It's a clue that the highways carrying blood to your brain might be getting a little congested or rigid. Over time, this chronic, low-level oxygen deprivation, made up of hundreds of these small moments, can contribute to cognitive decline and increase your risk for a more serious event. So, what can you do? This is where you become the detective. First, don't stand up like you're launching out of a cannon. Practice the 3-stage stand. Before you rise, sit at the edge of your chair or bed for a moment. Second, plant your feet firmly on the floor. Third, stand up slowly, perhaps holding on to something sturdy, and wait a few seconds before you start walking. Give your body time to adjust. Second, stay hydrated. Dehydration makes your blood thicker and harder to pump, worsening the problem. Starting your day with a glass of water is a simple but powerful habit. And finally, keep a small log. When does it happen? Is it after meals? When you're dehydrated? This information is invaluable when you speak to your doctor. Recognizing this isn't about creating fear of falling. It's about gaining control over the very act of standing up. But it's not just the world around you that can seem to tilt and blur in these moments. Sometimes, the problem lies directly with our windows to that world, our eyes themselves. And that brings us to our second silent sign. Our second silent sign is just as critical, and it involves not how we see the world, but the very clarity with which we see it. This is the experience of sudden, temporary vision changes, often in just one eye. Let's paint a picture. Imagine you're sitting in your sunroom, enjoying your morning coffee and reading the newspaper. Suddenly, and without any warning, it feels as if a dark curtain is being drawn down over the vision in your right eye. Or maybe the world through that one eye becomes dim, blurry, or completely grayed out. There's no pain, just a sudden, baffling change. Your first instinct is likely confusion, not alarm. You might rub your eye, blink a few times, assuming it's just tired or you have an eyelash caught. And then, a minute or two later, as mysteriously as it began, your vision returns to normal. Everything is sharp and clear again. The immediate feeling is relief, and the temptation to dismiss the event is overwhelming. How strange, you might think, before turning back to your newspaper and putting it out of your mind. But in the world of brain health, this event is a 5-alarm fire. What you may have experienced is a classic transient ischemic attack, or TIA, what many doctors now call a warning stroke. The term transient means temporary, but its implications are permanent and profound. Here's the mechanism, and it's essential to understand. The retina, the light-sensitive tissue at the back of your eye, is technically brain tissue. It is one of the most metabolically active parts of your entire body, demanding a huge and constant supply of oxygen-rich blood. This blood is delivered through a tiny, dedicated artery that branches off the main carotid artery in your neck, the superhighway that also feeds your brain. If you have atherosclerosis, which is the hardening and narrowing of arteries due to plaque buildup, that highway is like a road surface that's starting to crumble. Sometimes, a tiny piece of that plaque, a microscopic bit of cholesterol and debris, can break off. It travels downstream and can get lodged in the much smaller artery leading to your eye, creating a temporary dam. For the 60 or 90 seconds that blood flow is blocked, your retinal cells are starved of oxygen. The result is that curtain coming down, the blurriness, the dimming. When your body's natural systems manage to dissolve that tiny clot, or it dislodges and moves on, blood flow is restored, and your vision snaps back to normal. Here is the critical takeaway. This is not an eye problem. It's a blood vessel problem. That tiny plaque was a warning shot. It's irrefutable proof that there is unstable plaque in your carotid artery, the very same artery that supplies the vast territories of your brain. That temporary blockage in your eye could just as easily have traveled to a part of the brain that controls speech, movement, or memory, causing a massive, permanent stroke. A warning stroke is perhaps the most powerful gift your body can give you. It's a chance to prevent a disaster. So, the action here is not subtle. It is urgent. If you experience any sudden, temporary loss of vision in one eye, even for 30 seconds, you must treat it as a medical emergency. Contact your doctor or seek medical attention immediately. This single symptom can trigger a simple, painless carotid ultrasound that can visualize the plaque and allow your doctor to take preventative measures that could literally save your life and preserve your independence. This warning isn't meant to frighten you. It's meant to alert you to a signal you cannot afford to miss. The loss of vision, even for a moment, is a clear and dramatic signal. But our third silent sign can be more subtle, more confusing, and for many, far more frightening. It happens not in your eyes, but in your mind and on your tongue. We're talking about a sudden, brief episode of confusion, or an inexplicable difficulty with speaking or understanding speech. Let's explore this with a scenario that might feel all too familiar. You're on the phone with your daughter, catching up on the week. You're in the middle of a sentence, trying to explain something simple. Say, a recipe you tried, and suddenly, the words stop coming. The thought is perfectly formed in your mind. You know exactly what you want to say, but the connection between your brain and your mouth seems to have been cut. You might stammer, or perhaps a completely wrong, nonsensical word comes out instead. Your daughter might say, "Mom? Are you okay? I didn't understand that." You feel a jolt of panic, a hot flush of embarrassment. A moment later, the connection is re-established, and you can speak normally again. You quickly laugh it off. "Oh, you know me, my tongue got ahead of my brain." And you change the subject, desperately wanting to move past that strange, unnerving moment. This is not your tongue getting ahead of your brain. This is a potential neurological event called transient aphasia. Aphasia is the medical term for difficulty with language. Let's break down why this happens. Your brain has highly specialized areas dedicated to language. Think of one area, let's call it the brain's librarian, Wernicke's area, which is responsible for understanding words and finding the right ones to express a thought. Another area is the brain's spokesperson, Broca's area, which takes those words and arranges them into grammatically correct sentences for you to speak. These two areas are in constant, lightning-fast communication. Just like the artery to your eye, these language centers are fed by a complex network of tiny blood vessels. And just like we discussed, if a microscopic clot or piece of plaque temporarily travels into and blocks one of these vessels, the librarian or the spokesperson is momentarily starved of oxygen. If the librarian is affected, you might suddenly not understand what your daughter is saying, even though you can hear her voice. If the spokesperson is affected, you can't get the words out, even though you know them. When blood flow is restored a minute or two later, the system reboots, and your language ability returns to normal. This is another classic sign of a TIA, a warning stroke. And the danger is in dismissing it. A senior moment is forgetting a name that's on the tip of your tongue. A warning stroke is having the thought fully present but being physically unable to command the words to come out. So, the action here is about awareness and communication. Firstly, you must reframe the experience. Don't call it a brain fog or a senior moment. Call it what it is, an episode. Write it down. When did it happen? What were you doing? How long did it last? This data is pure gold for your doctor. Secondly, empower your family. Have a calm conversation with your spouse or children. Say, if you ever notice me suddenly getting confused or jumbling my words for a minute, I need you to take it seriously. It could be important. This turns them into allies in your health journey. This is not about being a hypochondriac. It's about being a superb health detective. So far, we've discussed how a lack of blood flow can cause systems to temporarily shut down, like a brief power outage affecting your vision or your ability to speak. But our fourth silent sign is different. Instead of a system going dark, it's about the system sending out strange, corrupted signals. We are talking about sudden, unexplained numbness, tingling, or a feeling of weakness, especially if it occurs on just one side of your body. Imagine this: you're sitting, knitting, or perhaps holding a book. All of a sudden, you become aware of a strange sensation in your left hand. It's not painful, but the fingers on that hand start to feel like they've fallen asleep. That fuzzy, pins and needles feeling. Or maybe your entire left arm suddenly feels heavy, clumsy, and weak, as if it doesn't quite belong to you. You try to clench your fist, and the movement feels sluggish and uncoordinated. You shake your arm out, thinking you just pinched a nerve or slept on it wrong. After a few minutes, the sensation completely disappears, and full strength and feeling return. The natural temptation is to rationalize it away. I must have been sitting in a funny position. While that can sometimes be true, if this happens suddenly, for no apparent reason, and specifically on one side, you have to consider a more serious possibility. This could be a symptom of a temporary disruption of blood flow to a very specific part of your brain. Here's the fascinating why behind this. Your brain is a masterpiece of organization. The right side of your brain controls the left side of your body, and the left side of your brain controls the right side of your body. Within each hemisphere, there is a specific strip of brain tissue, called the sensory cortex, that acts like a detailed map of the opposite side of your body. There's a spot for your hand, a spot for your face, a spot for your leg, and so on. When you feel the texture of a piece of velvet, nerve signals travel from your fingertips up to that exact spot on the map, and your brain interprets that as touch. Now, let's revisit our blood vessel analogy. If a tiny clot momentarily blocks a vessel feeding the specific part of the sensory cortex that represents your left hand, those brain cells are starved of oxygen. Deprived of fuel, they can't function properly. They might stop sending signals altogether, which you would experience as numbness. Or they might start firing erratically and randomly, like a computer glitch, which you would experience as that pins and needles or tingling sensation. The same principle applies to weakness. A different strip of brain tissue, the motor cortex, sends out the commands for movement. A brief interruption of blood flow there can cause that sudden feeling of a heavy, weak, or uncoordinated limb. The one-sided nature of this symptom is the most critical clue. A pinched nerve in your neck might affect one arm, sure. But if you also notice a little bit of drooping on one side of your face, or a bit of numbness in your leg on the same side as your arm, you are getting multiple data points that the problem is not in your limbs. It's in the control center, your brain. So, your detective work here involves self-testing and immediate reporting. The moment you feel this, test it. If your arm feels weak, try to raise both arms out in front of you. Does one drift downward? If your face feels funny, try to smile in a mirror. Is your smile even, or does one side droop? This isn't just for a major stroke. It's a test you can use during these fleeting, transient episodes. And just like with the vision and speech issues, a sudden, one-sided numbness or weakness that resolves on its own needs to be reported to your doctor right away. It's a textbook TIA symptom and a clear warning that the blood vessels supplying your brain are compromised. The warning signs we've covered so far, the dizziness, the vision changes, the speech difficulties, the one-sided numbness, are like sudden, flashing alarm lights. They are acute, impossible to ignore events. But our fifth silent sign is of a different nature entirely. It's not a flashing light, it's more like a slow, creeping fog. We are talking about a noticeable decline in your cognitive function, especially in areas like short-term memory, planning, or problem-solving. Let's step away from the sudden TIA scenarios and think about a slower, more gradual change. Perhaps you, or your loved ones, have started to notice that you're misplacing your keys or your glasses far more often than you used to. Not just once a week, but several times a day. Maybe you find yourself walking into a room and having absolutely no idea why you went there. Or you find that tasks that used to be second nature, like balancing your checkbook, planning a week's worth of meals, or even following the plot of a complex TV show, now feel overwhelming and mentally exhausting. You might feel a pervasive brain fog, a sense that your mind isn't as sharp or as quick as it once was. The temptation, once again, is to label this with that all-too-convenient phrase, "I'm just getting older." And while some very minor changes in cognitive speed can be a part of normal aging, a significant and frustrating decline is not. It can be a direct result of chronic cerebral hypoperfusion, a medical term that simply means your brain is consistently receiving less blood flow than it needs over a long period of time. To understand why, let's go back to our house analogy. The TIA is like a pipe suddenly getting blocked, cutting off water to the bathroom for a few minutes. It's a crisis. But chronic hypoperfusion is like having low water pressure throughout the entire house, all the time. The toilets still flush, and water still comes out of the faucets, but nothing works quite as well as it should. The dishwasher takes forever to fill, and the shower is just a weak trickle. Your brain works the same way. The frontal lobes, located right behind your forehead, are the CEO of your brain. They are responsible for what we call executive functions: planning, organizing, decision-making, and short-term memory. These functions are incredibly energy-demanding. They require a rich, robust supply of oxygen and glucose, delivered by your blood. If, due to factors like widespread atherosclerosis, high blood pressure, or even heart conditions that reduce the heart's pumping efficiency, the overall blood flow to the brain is consistently low, these high-demand areas are the first to suffer. Brain cells don't die off immediately, as they might in a stroke, but they become sluggish and inefficient. They can't form new connections as quickly, and communication between different brain regions becomes slower and less effective. Over time, this chronic starvation can lead to the actual shrinking of brain tissue and is a major contributor to a condition called vascular dementia. Your action plan here is one of vigilance and proactivity. First, take these cognitive changes seriously. Start a journal. Note specific examples: had trouble calculating a 20% tip today, or forgot my neighbor's name 3 times in one conversation. This transforms a vague feeling of "I'm getting more forgetful" into concrete data. Second, get checked. Talk to your doctor about your concerns. They can perform simple in-office cognitive screens and, crucially, they can investigate and treat the underlying causes of poor blood flow, like managing your blood pressure, cholesterol, and blood sugar. These are not just heart health numbers, they are brain health numbers. The insidious fog of cognitive decline is a deeply personal struggle, often felt more internally than it is seen externally. But our sixth sign is one that you feel in your very bones and muscles, one that can profoundly impact your day-to-day life and your ability to engage with the world. We're talking about a new or worsening pattern of fatigue and a noticeable drop in physical stamina that isn't explained by a lack of sleep. Think about how this might manifest. Maybe you used to love gardening, spending hours tending to your plants. But now, after just 15 or 20 minutes of light weeding, you feel an overwhelming wave of exhaustion and need to sit down. Perhaps a simple flight of stairs, which you used to take without a second thought, now leaves you winded and feeling a deep, heavy tiredness in your legs. It's not the sharp pain of arthritis or the breathlessness of a lung condition. It's a profound, whole-body fatigue, a sense that your energy reserves are simply gone. Friends or family might invite you for a walk or an outing, and you find yourself declining, not because you don't want to go, but because you genuinely don't believe you have the physical energy to keep up. The common reaction is to attribute this to age. "Of course I'm more tired, I'm 7'5", we tell ourselves. And while it's true that our peak physical endurance may decline, a significant and debilitating fatigue that limits your daily activities is not a normal part of the aging process. It can be a powerful sign that your entire circulatory system, including the crucial blood flow to your brain, is struggling to meet demand. Let's unpack the why of this. Your heart is the engine, and your blood vessels are the fuel lines that deliver oxygen to every part of your body. When you engage in physical activity, whether it's walking, climbing stairs, or carrying groceries, your muscles cry out for more oxygen. A healthy heart and flexible arteries respond immediately, increasing blood flow to meet this demand. However, if you have underlying conditions that compromise circulation, like heart disease or atherosclerosis, those stiff, narrowed arteries we've been talking about, your system can't keep up. The engine is struggling. Your heart has to work much harder to pump blood through narrowed pipes, and your muscles simply don't get the oxygen they need to function efficiently. This creates a state of systemic fatigue. But here's the crucial link back to the brain. Your brain is the ultimate regulator of perceived exertion and fatigue. It constantly monitors signals from your heart, lungs, and muscles. When the brain senses that the heart is straining and that oxygen levels in the blood are dropping, it sends out powerful signals of tiredness as a protective mechanism. It's your brain saying, "Whoa, the system is overloaded. We need to slow down and conserve resources." So that overwhelming urge to sit down after climbing the stairs isn't just your leg muscles being tired. It's a command decision from a brain that is detecting an impending energy crisis. Poor blood flow is a body-wide problem, and fatigue is often its most pervasive symptom. So, the action here is to reframe your fatigue. Don't see it as a personal failing or an inevitable consequence of your age. See it as a data point. Start asking detective questions. Is this a new level of tiredness? Is it preventing me from doing things I enjoy? Does it seem out of proportion to the activity I've just done? This is information you must share with your doctor. When you tell them, I get exhausted walking to the mailbox, you are providing a clue about your cardiovascular health that is just as important as a blood pressure reading. They can then investigate the efficiency of your heart and circulation. Simple, supervised exercise, like walking, can also be a powerful tool. It helps improve the efficiency of your heart and encourages your body to create new, tiny blood vessels, which act like natural bypasses around blockages. The profound fatigue we just discussed can make a good night's rest seem like the ultimate goal. But ironically, for many people, the night itself can become a source of trouble, bringing forth our seventh silent sign. This sign is often misunderstood and attributed to a dozen other causes, yet it can be a direct window into the health of your brain's circulation. We're talking about the onset of new or significantly worsened sleep disturbances, particularly the development of sleep apnea. Let's imagine the scene. Your spouse tells you, with a note of real concern in their voice, "You were gasping for air in your sleep again last night. It sounded like you stopped breathing for a moment, and then you took this huge, loud gulp of air. It really scared me." From your perspective, you might not be aware of these gasping episodes at all. What you do know is that you go to bed tired but wake up feeling even more exhausted. You feel unrefreshed, as if you've run a marathon in your sleep. You might have a dull headache in the morning, a dry mouth, or find yourself incredibly groggy and foggy-brained for the first few hours of the day, a feeling that no amount of coffee seems to touch. The tendency is to blame this on stress, a poor mattress, or just being a light sleeper. However, these are the classic hallmarks of obstructive sleep apnea, OSA, a condition that is deeply intertwined with poor cardiovascular health and, consequently, reduced blood flow to the brain. Here's the mechanical reason, and it's critical to connect these dots. During sleep, all the muscles in your body relax, including the muscles in your throat and soft palate. In someone with sleep apnea, these tissues can relax too much, collapsing and physically blocking the airway. For 10, 20, or even 30 seconds, you are not breathing. You are not taking in any oxygen. Your blood oxygen level plummets. This is a red alert emergency for your brain. Sensing the immediate danger of suffocation, your brain's survival centers kick in. It sends a massive surge of adrenaline through your system to jolt you just enough to tighten those throat muscles and gasp for air. That gasp is you saving your own life, hundreds of times a night. Now, think about the consequences. Each of these episodes is a moment of severe oxygen deprivation, hypoxia, for your brain. This is not a gentle, low-pressure situation like some of the other signs. This is a recurring, acute starvation of the most vital nutrient your brain needs. Furthermore, the repeated surges of adrenaline put immense strain on your heart and drive up your blood pressure throughout the night. It's like putting your cardiovascular system on a high-stress roller coaster while it's supposed to be resting and repairing. This chronic nightly cycle of oxygen deprivation and stress has devastating long-term effects. It dramatically accelerates the progression of atherosclerosis, making arteries stiffer and more clogged. It damages the delicate lining of the blood vessels, and it is a major independent risk factor for high blood pressure, heart attack, and, most importantly for our discussion, stroke. The very condition meant to restore your brain is instead actively damaging the circulatory system that supports it. The action here is non-negotiable and requires teamwork. First, listen to your partner. If they report snoring, gasping, or pauses in your breathing, take them seriously. They are your frontline health detective. Second, do not ignore the symptoms of waking up exhausted despite a full night in bed. This is not normal. Talk to your doctor specifically about sleep apnea. They can refer you for a sleep study, which is the definitive way to diagnose the condition. The good news is that sleep apnea is highly treatable, most commonly with a CPAP machine, which provides a steady stream of air to keep your airway open. Treating sleep apnea is one of the most powerful things you can do to reduce your blood pressure, protect your heart, and restore healthy, oxygen-rich blood flow to your brain. The 7 signs we've explored are signals your body sends that you can feel, see, or experience. They are the downstream effects of a problem. Our 8th and final silent sign, however, is different. It is the upstream cause. It is the powerful, relentless force that often drives all the other symptoms we've discussed. We are talking about the silent, damaging pressure of unmanaged hypertension, or high blood pressure. For millions of people, a high blood pressure reading at the doctor's office feels like an abstract number. The nurse wraps the cuff around your arm, it tightens uncomfortably, and then they read out something like 150/90. You might feel a pang of concern, but because you don't feel any different, the urgency can be lost. You might even rationalize it. "Oh, I was rushing to get here," or "I had too much salt at dinner last night." Because high blood pressure rarely has obvious, day-to-day symptoms in its early stages, it earns its sinister nickname, the silent killer. But let's visualize what that number, 150/90, is actually doing inside your body, 24 hours a day. Imagine your delicate, flexible blood vessels, especially the intricate network inside your brain, are like a garden hose. Now, imagine hooking that garden hose up to a high-pressure fire hydrant. The sheer force of the blood being slammed against the inner walls of your arteries is immense. This constant, pounding pressure does two catastrophic things over time. First, it injures the delicate inner lining of the arteries, a layer called the endothelium. This creates tiny, rough patches and microscopic tears. These damaged areas are like magnets for cholesterol and other inflammatory cells, which stick to the walls and begin to form the dangerous plaques of atherosclerosis. This is the direct cause of the blockages that lead to TIAs, the vision loss, the speech trouble, the one-sided numbness. Second, to withstand this relentless pressure, the muscular walls of your arteries start to thicken and stiffen. They lose their youthful flexibility. This is the arteriosclerosis that prevents your vessels from adjusting quickly when you stand up, leading to that dizziness and lightheadedness we discussed as our very first sign. This widespread stiffness also means the overall volume of blood that can get through to your brain is chronically reduced, leading to the cognitive fog, the fatigue, and the slow decline we've covered. High blood pressure is not just another sign on the list. It is the engine of destruction for your brain's entire supply chain. So, the action here is perhaps the most critical of all. You must know your numbers. And you cannot rely on 1 or 2 readings a year at the doctor's office. The single most empowering step you can take is to purchase a reliable home blood pressure monitor and learn how to use it correctly. Measure your blood pressure at the same time each day, after sitting quietly for 5 minutes. Keep a log. This data is the truth. It removes the white coat effect and gives you and your doctor an accurate picture of what's really going on. This log transforms you from a passive recipient of a diagnosis into an active, informed partner in your own care. It allows your doctor to tailor your treatment, whether lifestyle changes or medication, with incredible precision. And that, right there, is the heart of our entire conversation today. Recognizing these 8 silent signs, from the fleeting dizzy spell to the steadfast number on a blood pressure monitor, is the first, most powerful step you can take away from fear and uncertainty, and toward a future of proactive, empowered health. And as we bring all of these pieces together, a new picture begins to emerge. The sudden dizzy spell when you stand, the momentary grayness in your vision, the word that vanishes from your tongue, the fleeting numbness in your hand. These are not separate, random glitches in the system. They are urgent, flashing alarm bells, all pointing to the same root issue, an acute, temporary interruption of blood flow. And the other signs, that creeping brain fog, the profound fatigue that steals your stamina, the restless nights punctuated by gasps for air. These are the slow, chronic consequences of a system under constant strain. And underpinning it all is that silent, relentless pressure in your arteries. What I hope you truly take away from our conversation today is this: your body is not failing you. It is communicating with you. These signs are not a declaration of defeat. They are a profound and generous invitation to listen more deeply. They are your body's sophisticated early warning system, designed to give you the one thing that can change everything. Time. Time to act, time to make changes, time to prevent a crisis before it ever begins. We've reframed these experiences. They are no longer senior moments to be dismissed with a sigh, but crucial data points for you, the lead detective of your own health. You are now equipped to see the patterns, to understand the why behind the feeling, and to have a meaningful, informed conversation with your doctor. This knowledge transforms vague fear into focused action. It replaces the feeling of helplessness with a sense of control. This is not about being afraid of every little ache or pain. It's about cultivating a new partnership with your body, one built on respect, attention, and a commitment to action. Because every step you take to improve your circulation is a direct investment in your future. It's an investment in more years of sharp-witted conversations, of cherished independence, of having the energy to play with your grandchildren, and of safeguarding the incredible, irreplaceable essence of who you are. The power is now in your hands. If this conversation has been valuable to you, please take a moment to click that like button. It's a simple act that tells YouTube this information is important, helping it reach more people just like you who need to hear this message. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to join our community. We have so much more to explore together on this journey of aging with strength and clarity. Thank you for investing this time in yourself today. Be well, listen to your body, and I look forward to seeing you again in our next video.